Ladies and gentlemen and ladies, we have a little bit of a reading that I'm about to do, something I wrote, and these are just my thoughts. When I had some time, I put this together because this is what was on my mind. We're gonna title this video the Scholastic Aptitude Discrepancy Doctrine. Now, you're going to understand it's probably going to be about 3 or 4 videos to complete this because it's a lot of writing. As a matter of fact, let's see how many pages. Handwritten pages back to back, total of 44, 45. So, I'm not going to read all of it tonight because it is nighttime, and as you can see up there, it's 9:10 in the evening, and this is a very long day, but I wanted to get this done, and so I'm going to go ahead and get started. Scholastic Aptitude Discrepancy Doctrine. Mental aptitude is genetic. And when genetic mapping, and that is the genes that carry the ancestry knowledge relative to a person's existence, is taken into consideration, it is a factor that is discriminatory by deliberate intent. How so? Well, throughout history, it has been the parents' duty to teach their slaves, their servants, or as they're commonly known, their children. Yes, no matter how you look at it, no matter what your opinion, children are indentured servants born into slavery. Now, during the 18th and 19th centuries, the United States practiced intentional dehumanization. They brought men and women and children to this country, and so they would be dependent, minority, reliant upon their captives, Stockholm Syndrome. And they forbade them to learn to read in this new language, to be vocationally trained. Now, just keep in mind, they could read in their original language, in their home language, but now they're brought to a different environment, a different country, and they were not able to read in this new language, thus they seemed as if they were uncultured, unlettered. Now, most were taught that this was because these slaves were uncivilized, savages, uncouth, and could not be taught, as they were incapable of higher mental activity and mental acuity. Yet, they learned to do tasks, learned to speak a foreign language, so these slave traders knew different and better. You see, they were attempting to affect generations. Go back and look at all of the movies you've ever saw. Remember how you felt. Oh, if I were alive back then, that would never have happened. I would have done this or I would have done that. First, if you were around back then, you would be doing and would have done the very same thing you're doing now. For the very same environment exists then as exists today. Now, people back then were enslaved by force or threat, and now by force and threat. See, force of law or so-called order. Today they use statute and case law to enforce their will upon people. Now, note the following. The courts claim that they have a duty to ensure or administer justice. This administration of justice was never the intent of the Constitution. Well, note what the Constitution says. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility. You see, they were forming the United States to establish justice. Not the courts establishing justice, but the people of the United States establishing justice. Well, the people do not know because they have not been taught that the people ordered that the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments, be that which establishes justice. Look at the first 10 amendments. They are fundamental principles of justice. Justice, righting wrongs, correcting injustice. Which is why the very First Amendment says Congress shall make no law prohibiting or abridging the right of the people to petition the government for redress of grievance for getting justice. Now, this is something that I have been going over as of late, and I'm taking myself away from the writing for just a moment. What I realize is the first 10 amendments were written by the people. They were not written by the founding fathers. The people came together and told these representatives what they were willing to settle for. There were negotiations, there were debates, but the people are the ones who enacted the Constitution. Go back, reread the preamble, and see it was not the founding fathers who enacted the Constitution. It says, we the people. Congress was not the people. They never could have been the people. Okay, back to the writing. Okay, take for instance, January 3rd, 2021. Where were you? Were you in Washington, D.C. at the Capitol? Or in the crowd? Part of the protest? If not, did you wish to be there? Do you have an opinion? When in reality, none of the aforementioned questions matter, as none of it is important. Sure, those who were there thought it was, but let's see how it wasn't. Why did they go there in the first place? Where did they get the idea? As for not a single one of these individuals was this idea an original one. That's right. The idea was planted. Some so-called program, an AI system, caused all of this stir. Possibly the same AI system that is QAnon. Yes, QAnon. QAnon is in on everything. What? You did not know that the government was using AI to manipulate people? Oh, come on. You never saw War Games with Matthew Broderick? Yes, they are playing games with people's minds and lives. Okay, the battle since the dawn of civilization has been the control of men's mind. I have often reflected on, if you put 1 billion supercomputers together, it would not equal one human brain. The brain is so complex and complicated, and yet, for known reasons, we only use, at the most, 3%. Not only, excuse me, some people say 10%, but that would have us teleporting and walking on water. Not only do we use 3%, but 3% is why scientists compares man to ape, chimps, and other primates. All right, back to the scholastic aptitude discrepancy of slavery. By restricting the slaves from reading and writing, this resulted in a lag. Now, this lag proved not by time, but by continual practice. See, the urban schools, the less supplied schools, the less outdated book schools, or the more outdated book schools, the less funding schools, and this continues to the present day. Every cry to make the playing field, a game, level is rebuffed. And excuse after excuse. So they started with desegregation. Aha, you see the intent, as segregation was intentional. Eugenics is also playing a role. They are intentionally augmenting the human genome. For what purpose? To create a labor or workforce. Look, ladies and gentlemen, go ahead and take a look at all the schools in the inner city neighborhoods have the hand-me-downs, the older supplies, the more run-down schools, the weaker economy. That's done intentionally. Remember, the economy is built, created. It was not something that just happened. They designed it that way. Watch this. Throughout history, the lazy, otherwise known as the capitalists, they're lazy. They don't do any work. They have everybody do the work for them. Well, these who advocate wealth over all else, these lazy people have known that the one with the largest labor force is the most powerful. China, Amazon, Google, Wall Street, and the federal government, the militaries of the world. The more power you have over people, the more powerful you are. That's what world leaders do. The manipulation of men's minds. With knowledge depreciation tactics, the children of slavery, i.e., poverty, are held back with only the most basic skills: cleaning, cooking, sanitation, answering phones, and preparing and serving food, i.e., a working class. Government have perfected this technique, for it has learned how to control information, to control knowledge. They hold it in many instances as top secret, confidential, classified. Again, it is a practice. Ignorance means to ignore knowledge, and this is what was attempted by slavery. Did the slaves ignore knowledge? Yes. Wait, I thought you said that knowledge was withheld from them. I did. You need to understand that no one realized that this newfound African American does not speak a single language of the land they came from. That's right. The parents did not pass this language on to their children. Hispanics families, Jamaicans, Italians, and others who come to America teach the language of their homeland to their children. And then the children fail to continue to practice. Immigrants now are treated the same, isolated in micro communities. This is encouraged by the government. Little Sicily, Little China, Little Korea towns, and so on. Everyone must realize that this is a very shrewd plan. Now that they have AI, artificial intelligence, or so-called intelligence, it is now on semi-autopilot because of the failures of driverless cars. They know that AI can fail. So they have worked on the so-called fail-safes. Everyone understands and gets this. AI is modeled after man, and man wants to die, especially if I messed up. AI is modeled after man, and no man wants to die, especially if in good health and in position. So AI has already prepared and is already poised to protect itself. You've seen it in all the movies where the AI system ends up destroying man because it feels that man will eventually destroy it. Look at the Terminator. Interesting, ain't it? AI is being utilized in all aspects of life: crowd control, pandemic preparedness. Why have they not sought the advice for the best way to rule over man? The Bible, the word of the original SI, Supreme Intelligence, has already stated what this is. And they choose to ignore and to create AI. Now, what is obvious is the flaw of AI. Please, 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 please. Just ask yourself the question. What is obvious as to the flaws of AI? Well, stop guessing. It is imperfect. It is created by imperfect man, so it is bound to fail. In every way, one way or another, it is bound to fail. Well, take a look at Uber and its AI system. You see, look at the movie War Games, where Matthew Broderick, they gave you a glimpse of when letting a computer do the doing goes wrong. Then there are so many sci-fi movies, episodes that document the same. Even the Terminator, iRobot, RoboCop. Why so many movies on the subject? To desensitize people and to make it seem like it's okay. It's only a movie, make-believe. It's not real life. And now AI is everywhere, and we ignore how invasive it is. I wonder, is there really a spirit in the machine? And if so, what is the intent of this spirit? I mean, if AI can be programmed by man, can AI program man? Again, QAnon. Anyone? Look at what one computer programmed equipment has done. So, we're back at one. Controlling what we think, what we know, how we see the world. With music, we are led to believe that specific artists wrote that song or those songs only to have it revealed that someone else wrote it or that. The artist was told to add a catchphrase. Why? Conditioning, brainwashing, programming of impressionable minds. For who is it that listens to the most music? That's right, the most impressionable mind, children. Is this not the story of the Bible? Eve, the child, in a relative sense, was the one to be misled by words. Imagine that. Look, ladies and gentlemen, it works like this. You must understand that the plan was to take care of that creature, to correct her thinking, to make her the scapegoat. Watch this. You're really not surprised by any of this. You only need to take into consideration the exception to the use of the word Bible, or the name Eve, or Jehovah, or the word God. Do you not even realize that these words or names or titles offend you? Now, why is that? Why do people get offended when they hear something about the Bible? Well, just think about it. The same one who told you not to talk about it or not to discuss it, pay attention. Yes, suggestive programming, telling you something is to be avoided when it is not dangerous in and of itself. Now, we are not speaking of moral or immoral, as that is another area where it is influenced to accept or reject something that is held as wrong. Yes, it's okay for kids to have sex. What the? I'm sorry. People, when did that start? Some would say kings in ancient times got married as teens. Yes, married. Go look, for instance, where the entire community practiced this. Yes, all failed. They exist no more. Every single nation that practiced child marriage all failed. And the ones that still practice today exercise no real power whatsoever. All right, corruption is corruption. You corrupt something, you damage it, destroy it. So, what if the Bible was right? What if moral corruption leads to societal destruction? Well, what if? That, well, however, is not the subject matter. The subject matter is deliberate and intentional dumbing down of generations for the purpose of creating a perpetual labor force. My father's fathers, or my great-great-great-grandfather was a slave. My father, a man of little means, but an entrepreneur. Now, this is the truth. My father's father was a slave. I've looked up the ancestry, found the young man. And it turns out that my mother's great-great-great-grandfather was a slave too. And they were both born in, pay attention, Kentucky. My mother and father, both from Louisiana, met each other in Louisiana, but all of their ancestors are from Kentucky. Imagine that. My father was a man of principle. Now, see, I did not know of his schooling, but the fact is this. He had 6 children by my mother, and we all composed of their genome, their genes. I am who I am because those two, plus the generations preceding them, came together. I have often told people I have never studied this, I just know what I know. For instance, the news, or how it's reported. What I know is that the news is scripted. Question is suggestive, directional. Each station taking sides. This side, not that one. This is right. Both sides are saying the exact same thing, arguing over the exact same points to achieve the exact same goal. Now, they make it appear that they are in disagreement when they all speak so as to achieve the same ends. And in the end, they all agree. See, lately I've been listening to news talk radio. What most people do not know is most news is advertisement. And most of the time, they do not even tell you it's advertisement. In the U.S., military feel-good stories are just that, stories, paid by the U.S. military for advertising on several stations. Why is this? Shaping minds. Look at how the opposition and the opinionated every single story is on the news. Everyone has an opinion, everyone wants to argue, everyone wants to debate. Amazing. Each one demanding to be heard and each one demanding to be right. This is not new. In the 30s, 40s, and 50s, radio and newspapers were the key manipulation tools, but now TV and the internet. Remember, before they do it, they must warn you. For if they do not warn you, you can always, as a matter of law, claim ignorance. Now, what are they warning us about? As stated, Congress, the leaders of both houses, declared an insurrection and rebellion against democracy. It is a federal crime to incite, assist, or engage in a rebellion or insurrection against the United States. That is 18 U.S.C. 2383. And also Article 8, Section 15 and 16, dealing with the calling forth of the U.S. militia, National Guard. Yes, the U.S. militia is the National Guard in cases of insurrection and rebellion. So Congress has officially declared an insurrection, called in the U.S. military in every state, secured every capital. Note how they cut off a tweeting and other social media accounts of Trump and the groups and tens of thousands of others. Why? Well, now they will have the military produce vaccines, distribute and monitor. The military can only help in two situations. One, to protect and defend against, from without, and against all invasions, both foreign and domestic, unrest. So now the military can come in. The current president, Biden, has stated that he will utilize the military. So there must be a need to protect and defend against invasion. When the country surrounds the capital of a government with its military, it is called an occupation. So the military occupied the states and D.C. January 2021, and no one complained. Do not worry. We were not supposed to worry, for you were conditioned not to worry. For there was a lynching, then Jim Crow, then civil rights, then videotapes of police beating up people such as Rodney King. Forgot about that one, didn't all of you? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to stop right there with the comment about Rodney King, and we're going to pick up with, I do the next one, about there's the same outspokenness, and I will pick up with that on the next video. As I said, all this conversation is about is one thing: my thoughts on certain areas, certain issues that at the time I was thinking about. Same subject line. The situation is, right now in this country, people are taking sides as to race and taking sides as to what's right, what's wrong, and they don't understand everything that's going on. Everything that's going on. There is no surprises. None of these government agencies, none of these government people are surprised. Everything that's going on, they plan. People are Well, Bush did this and Trump did this and Biden did this, and they don't realize all of that junk that they're doing is an act. Now, I'm not speaking against any of these politicians. That's their role playing. If that's how they choose to live their lives and do what they do, let them do it. I ain't got nothing to do with that. But I do know that from the beginning of this nation, there has been a need for the capitalists, the bankers, the business people, to get control over the people. You control the people, you control the nation, you control the world. That's why China is a world power. Doesn't matter if everybody keeps saying the United States is the greatest nation on the earth, United States can never be defeated, United States this, United... They can preach all of that all they want. China's got 2.3 billion people in its country. If China sent over 1% of its population to America, 1%, pay attention, 2.3 billion. If they sent over 2.3 million people, they take over the United States with no problem. United States has about 380 million people. Yes, got people that they refer to as illegals and people who are not part of the census. So about 380 million people compared to China's 2.3 billion. They sent over 2.3 million. There is no way in the world the United States could topple that. The United States knows this. It cannot go to battle with China with nuclear weapons because that's why China's been going after natural resources of these other countries. They haven't been just digging for oil and mining iron and all of this other stuff. Now, as I mentioned, I am a believer in Scripture, and all the prophecies of Scripture that was supposed to come true to the present day has come true. None of that speaks about any nation destroying this earth on any level at any time with any nuclear anything or anything else, pollution or whatever. Why? Revelation 11 chapter verse 18 says that he will destroy those ruining the earth. Not everybody's ruining the earth, so that means some people will survive. Sorry, it's deduction. So if he says he will destroy those ruining the earth, that means the earth will survive. So all of you who believe in an Armageddon that's just going to destroy everything because there's some spaceship coming from outer space and it, or some asteroid, or where are you getting these stupid imaginary issues from? You need to go see somebody because you got problems. Because you're adding in all this other junk that ain't nowhere to be seen or read. See, if you're going to mix stuff with Scripture, then you're wrong right there to begin with. Because it's not designed for you to be mixing your junk into it. But if you're going to go by Scripture, then go by it. There is nothing in Scripture speaking about, well, it talks about the destruction of the world with fire and all that. Yes, in Revelation, the 21st chapter and the 20th chapter, when it speaks about the lake of fire, it says every single time it means the second death. So it's a symbol. It's not real. God. Sorry, Revelation, the 20th chapter, verse 13 through 15, says this lake of fire is not Hades, because Hades is thrown into the lake of fire. But according to Dante's Inferno, Hades is the lake of fire, burning hell. Well, not according to the Scriptures. The Scripture says that Hades is thrown into the lake of fire. So it's not literal. Why? Because Hades is not a place. Hades is not a thing. Hades is a condition. It's just death. And then Revelation 21 verse 8 says that the lake of fire, everything is thrown into the lake of fire, and the lake of fire means the second death. Means the second death. Why the second death? Because Revelation, the 20th chapter, shows that the first death, there's a resurrection. Jesus speaks about people being resurrected in the first death. John, the 5th chapter, verse 27 and 28. You don't believe me? Go back and... these are scriptures I know by heart. So go ahead and look them up. And tell me I'm wrong. So the first death, there's a resurrection. The second death, there is no resurrection. That's why it's called the second death. Okay? That's the punishment for people who blaspheme. The exact same punishment. They don't exist no more. Never to exist again. Don't have a hope of resurrection. So, again, there'll be some people who go, I ain't gonna listen to this, and I don't care. I'm not doing this for you guys. I'm doing this for me. This is what I wrote down. I just want to put it on video. So I'll be doing a couple more videos. Uh-oh. I should have stopped it from going to sleep, so that's my fault, but I do have it recording so that it won't go to sleep. That's why we have that right there. So what I want to do, ladies and gentlemen, is I want to go ahead and leave all of you guys to your day and let you go ahead and know that I'll be using this channel to put up videos similar to this in the future. So thank you, thank you, thank you for your time. Thank you for paying attention. Thank you for taking the time. And again, this is the systematic... Uh-oh, I forgot the title of this. Haha, but I'll put it in there. But it is the systematic dumbing down of, excuse me, generations of people through this desensitization of restricting them from learning, and then allowing others to learn more and learn more and learn more, which, yeah, it's a technique that all the nations practice. It's a technique, it's a process, it's a system, and this system is continually being perpetuated. We'll talk about it as we continue with this writing. You're going to learn a couple other things, especially about how they're using AI to control everything. Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gents, thank you guys for staying with me for this video. Appreciate it. Have a good day. Goodbye.